Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our debate focused on possibilities of investment in ICT market in Poland. First, I would like to introduce my guests. So we have Aleksandra Przegalińska-Skierkowska from Koźmiński University in Poland, expert of AI. Francesco Bofilio, the CEO of Gaia-X in Europe. Borys Stokalski, partner at Rethink, and Sebastian Grabowski, IoT expert at Orange. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Everyone.
Good morning, everybody.
So it's still today our main topics for this debate is AI, robotization, IoT, whether these are still technologies of the future. But we cannot miss the main topic happening today in the world, which is Ukraine. And talking about what started yesterday is what impact it has on the economy. We thought that pandemic was somehow one of these black swans that started shaping our reality, and we hope that pandemic will end. But one of the main parts of nowadays reality is that these black swans, the unexpected events, will be happening. And the situation in Ukraine today is another example of the environment where we're living in that has an impact on us as society and also on business, and will be shaping the way we build strategies for the future, the way we operate. So this is probably one of these new normals that we were expecting when the pandemic is ending. But going back to our main topic for today, pandemic accelerated digital transformation, and everything we've seen, we forecasted that will start happening around 2025, actually happened within 1 or 2 years. We saw massive implementations of new technologies that, again, were predicted to enter the market in a few years' time. But AI, robotics, automation, IoT became main factors for driving the change within the business environment. So first, I would like to ask Francesco, we are living in the era of digital economy, the digital economy that started accelerating rapidly. The digital economy brings 4 times bigger GDP growth than the normal economy. Could you explain us better how to read what digital economy really means, what it is about, and what it consists?
Thank you, Eva, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here, and also for your intro on the current situation in Ukraine, which unfortunately is, like you said, is another black swan that at least I think can make us thinking today in this event, in this debate. So first of all, to go to your question, digital economy is no more what we used to consider. What I mean is that the total amount of revenues produced by the IT companies, that what used to be, let me say, the original translation of digital economy. Actually, digital economy is a much broader and articulated model of economy today. First of all, digital economy is not proportional to the cost of production. This is extremely important when you think about Europe, when we think about also the fragmentation of Europe, and definitely the lack of competitivity in cost of labor and cost of raw materials. Digital products and services have a price which is proportional to the value perceived by the market. And this is a disruptor because it means that the price of the products can be higher than the cost of production, strictly speaking. Second, the data are not a finite resource, so they are infinite resources. And in Europe, we have the highest quality data because of our distribution, geographies, differentiation, cultural and industrial heritage. So everybody in the world needs the data from Europe, from European industries, from European citizens to build good digital products and services. So we have a gold mine in terms of the raw material of the new economy. Third, which is a consequence of 1 and 2, digital economy is the only way to survive and compete in Europe and in countries where the cost of labor, like I said, and the raw material will never be competitive at the large global scale. So the volume of digital economy in Europe will move from, in this 5 years, 2020 to 2025, from 200 to roughly 900 billion euros. It is an unparalleled growth, like you said, Eva. And this means that in 2025, almost 10% of the Europe GDP will be directly on digital. But the inducted business is much bigger. So it's the bottom of the iceberg, because economists project and predict that 50 to 70% of the price of the digital products and services, if you want the digital twins that we are going to build on the physical and traditional products and services, will be driven directly or indirectly by data. So that means that directly or indirectly, our lives, our employment, our education, our services, our utilities, gas, electricity, and I think I do not need to give further example, will depend directly or indirectly from digital platforms. So we therefore need to invest in, of course, a new generation of digital platform. We need to invest in competencies. We need to invest in a future where we have control. So we get back control on these platforms and a sovereign control. And there is, let me say, 4 ingredients for the digital economy of the future that will make Europe playing an important role. 3 ingredients are technological. So I used to make this joke, but if you want to think about the new table of the basic elements through which you can build the new digital materials of the future, there is 3 basic elements. 1 is artificial intelligence, 2 is the cloud, and 3 is the IoE, if you want, the data in the broader sense. The combination and the permutation of these 3 elements will produce any sort of new digital product of the future. But there is a 4th element, which is the need for a new generation of trusted, interoperable, transparent, controllable platforms, cloud and data platforms. This is what GaiaX is building, and Poland is contributing actively to this project together with other 20 countries and 330 members. What we are aiming to build is a new generation of technology that will be in control of the users of those technologies and in control of the providers of those technology, reducing the dependencies from technology owners that nowadays do not provide enough transparency and controllability, and therefore are jeopardizing our political sovereignty. Because when we talk about sovereignty, which is the most inflection word in these months in Europe, we need to remember that sovereignty is a political term. But like Minister Le Maire said in his keynote speech at the inauguration of the French semester of the European Council presidency, he said, there cannot be any political sovereignty without digital sovereignty. And I think in these hours, in these days, we realize how fragile our society, our economy can be without a real control also on the digital platform. But let me spend the last word on Poland and Europe, more in general, but Poland and other countries that maybe in the old age of economy have played a marginal role even in the large continent, because small countries may have struggled to compete with large enterprises in bigger countries and maybe have been competing more on competencies and cost of labor. Now, in the new generation that requires this new model of federated technology platforms, there is no difference between smaller and bigger players, smaller and bigger countries. And actually, the competencies of Poland that have been widely recognized across Europe as the best across Europe in terms of technology, artificial intelligence, robotics, etc. Yep. And the key role of Polish companies in the value chain and in the supply chain of many European products and services are going to play even a bigger role, because they are going to become part of this new generation of federated, cooperative, collaborative, and interoperable digital networks of technology platforms.
Yeah, thank
this
you,
is not the dream of Gaia X. This is necessary, just to conclude, because the data are spread all over, and no one on planet Earth today can still live with technologies that are proprietary and concentrated. We need this new model. We need the European model. We need the Gaia X model. Poland is part of it, is going to play a key role in it.
Agree. Thank you very much for this introduction. I fully agree. Digital transformation is a lot about technologies, mainly about technology, but in reality, it's about trust, the trust we build with our customers, with our society. And for this, I would like to turn to Alexandra. You mentioned that AI is one of these fundamental technologies. AI is the fastest growing technology in the whole European region, and the market grew from 900 million in 2019 to 8 billion in 2025. It's a massive growth, and this AI is constantly changing. It's not more a technology from dystopia predictions that will totally alter the society, but it's a really down-to-earth technology transforming our business. Ola, how does AI really has transformed within the pandemic, and how do you see its growth?
Well, I think it's a great question, and it is true that artificial intelligence is a part of a greater ecosystem. We're now starting to unravel or discover, different, let's say, relationships between certain technologies within that ecosystem. So AI works greatly with IoT, for instance. You have real-time data, you have better predictions. So we are slowly seeing how this ecosystem is becoming more robust and how these technologies kind of, interrelate with one another. And truly, I think AI is at the core of this ecosystem. And it is true what you're saying, that from the phase of certain speculative scenarios about how artificial intelligence will unfold, what will it bring to society, Terminator references and stuff like that, we have moved to a period of true testing of artificial intelligence. We are now at the level of asking many down-to-earth questions, how AI can solve this particular problem within this particular domain for this particular sector. So that has definitely changed. And I do think that COVID pandemic has accelerated this sort of approach, where we are no longer talking about what AI will do in the future, but rather we are saying what AI can do today, how can I invest in artificial intelligence, what will it cost for me to implement artificial intelligence, and ultimately, is it going to be about cost reduction, or is it going to be about discovering, let's say, new revenue streams, for instance, for me and for my company. So I do think that, we see a growing complexity in terms of artificial intelligence. We see new engines, new tools. I work myself in natural language processing. We now have tools, for instance, related to translation into different languages, including Polish, that we never had before. They're so accurate and so much embedded in the pragmatics of language. So that has been happening over the course of the past 2 or 3 years. We see this shift. The same would apply for machine vision, right? And image recognition that has been perfecting itself for the past few years, and also other applications of machine learning. And I do think that this complexity is accompanied by 2 things. One is low-code and no-code approaches. So certain simplification of artificial intelligence that is important, for instance, for sectors that have not been always related with artificial intelligence. You can take the example of agriculture, very important part of the Polish economy. Agriculture is currently really switching to this new digital era where you have sensor embedded and sensor enabled, as well as AI enabled agriculture that will ultimately become much smarter than it is today. So this simplification, the possibility to use machine learning for prediction, for optimization, for instance, is really translating into more widespread adoption of artificial intelligence and AI mainstreaming, I would say, because legal sector, education, agriculture, transportation, logistics, very big in Poland, for instance. All these sectors are really now convinced that AI can do something for them, and that it is possible to use artificial intelligence without extreme barriers, right? Of, for instance, certain digital skill set that certain entrepreneurs may not have, for instance. So that I think is very important, and that goes together with certain specialization, I would say. So you don't have generic AI solutions anymore that are tackling different problems within different domains with the same approach. You rather have more pluralistic approach where you have many different companies, startups incubating artificial intelligence in Poland, particularly in the medtech area and the medical technologies, as well as in logistics, for instance, and agriculture, as I said before. So you definitely have more pluralistic approach, and obviously that has to be collaborative, it has to be participatory, like Francesco said, so it's good to work in certain clusters, right? And to, I would say, adopt technology that is well designed for you, but also in your, you know, for your allies, for your partners that are working in the same business domain. So I do think that these three things, right? Immense complexity of artificial intelligence, but also its mainstreaming and its specialization, these three things are shaping AI as of today. And we are really talking now about optimization questions. We are no longer in that, you know, area of speculation, dystopia, utopia, whatnot, but we are becoming very real about artificial intelligence.
That's true. And as you said, it's being now implemented across all the industries. But it was another interesting part of pandemic. We could see all the industries accelerating, but at a totally different pace. Each industry was ready for digitalization, but on a totally different level. And each industry required a different technology. So it was not spread across all the industries at the same level. So talking about this, I think that IoT and robotics is a great example how it transformed manufacturing mainly in the very beginning of pandemic and is still transforming. Boris, if you could tell more about the IoT.
Well, I think this is a great new opportunity in a world that has already been using quite a lot of technology. Because if you look at the industry, obviously the robots, robotics, and digital system had been present there for a long time. I would say this is one of the first industries that really went through this process of implementation of digital technologies to actually achieve efficiencies, but different kind of efficiencies than those which Francesco has been talking about. They have been built on mass production, on high value execution of very stable processes that could be basically improved in a kind of systematic way. And what we are seeing today is a completely new set of requirements, a new set of expectations. First, expectations. Industry, even, you know, I would say the largest industry in the world, which is a construction industry, are really looking for this kind of efficiencies that the digital industry is proposing. You know, this increasing economy of increasing returns. And they are looking, I mean, how to do that. The second thing, I would say more obvious and more important today is the flexibility of the systems, because the flexibility that turns into product personalization, product reconfiguration capabilities for different kind of market niches, which are going smaller and smaller, but obviously also the huge flexibility required today by the supply chain, both external in the economic, in the ecosystem, which are really turbulent and will become even more turbulent. We thought that pandemic has changed that, but I think we didn't see, we saw nothing yet from the perspective of what's happening today in the global world. And also in the internal supply chains. And for this opportunity, we've been talking about the opportunity that the technology has matured to the level that we can today do a lot of things that are mimicking cognitive capabilities of humans, and we can embed this kind of cognitive capabilities into things, into processes, into machines. This is really a huge way forward, and this opportunity is available not just for the large established providers like KUKA or Swisslog. They are available for startups. And this is a real game changer, because the startup community in Europe, in Poland also, is growing. The number of VC funds who have the capability to actually develop a business is growing. Their competencies are growing, so they can really target companies on the pre-seed stages. that means that it's really a huge sea change of smart solutions that will emerge from this combination of AI, of intelligence embedded into things that can interact with the world around us, with the buildings, with machines, with moving things, with static things, with flying things, whatever. And I believe this is really something that is happening also in Poland. In Poland, IT has been built, industry built from scratch for the last 3 decades. And it's still considered to be a great career opportunity for people and a great business opportunity for entrepreneurs. So, I mean, if you are looking for good, undervalued assets, really come to Poland.
Yes, that's true. We started later a little bit, which means we had the legacy that a lot of developed economies already were struggling with.
Yeah. Also, a lot of the industrial, for example, facilities in Poland, they have been either greenfield operations, which enables us to actually apply technology in a new way, and all these smart systems that are flexible, not just automatic, or large refurbishing investments of existing but very old legacy factories.
Right. We still have 2 more debates today that I encourage you to follow, and we will be talking a lot about the workforce and these key differentiators. But now, as we talk about the technology transforming us and societies and business, we have to mention how it actually changes our regular life in cities. IoT is a lot about building new modern cities, so-called smart cities, that allow us to work in a totally and operate in a totally different ways. So, Sebastian, if you could elaborate on that.
With pleasure. I prepared some kind of, very direct speech before this debate. However, now, according to my colleagues, I should change it, I think that if we are speaking about the city, we should consider at least 2 kind of dimensions. The first one is the technology. And I love what Alexandra said about this kind of, even this NLP, natural language processing. Data is the king, let's call it like that. And if we are speaking about the technology, I love this kind of pyramid description. On the bottom, we have data. Without data, we will never get AI, because data is a king, and to manage it, exactly, IoT was created. It's really hard to say, as Francesco said, about the Internet of Things. We should speak about Internet of Everything, because things, people, applications, etc., all of those elements of the modern city speak. And second dimension, that there are cities. I think that all of cities have more or less the same goals. Look after of people, prepare very comfortable, secure life of inhabitants, of citizen, and try to find the best technology to secure the city around, in fact. And why cities are important? Because there is very comprehensive environment, like a platform, as Francesco said, to innovate. Because we have everything as a one coherent ecosystem. We have business, we have people, we have, let's call it municipal industries, companies, etc., startups, and etc., etc. And what is important around this ecosystem, startups, IT companies, starting to rule because they are using competences. And the size of the company, it's not so important. Competences are ruling to innovate among cities. Let's take the case of Warsaw. I love it. I love it. I'm so impressed by the work, in fact, done by Warsaw, because Warsaw, as a capital of Poland, has rather strict directions or direction around data management, about digitalization. Warsaw implemented at least 3 different platforms to manage data in a field. Let's call it field because Warsaw, from their perspective, is rather one big field of different elements, sensors, people, application, companies, etc. They are managing open data. Almost 200 resources, data resources, are exposed for population, for society, for startup IT companies. On the other hand, they are as well managing sensors to expose this information to inhabitants. It's not important to create the service as a city. People can create it, can innovate it. It means that city is supporting as well ICT business in general direction. That's why I love city, technology, and as well, for me, Warsaw is one of the best case in Poland how to innovate with data. If we have a data, Polish ICT sector can really develop, and because of the goals of those international cities, the same case could be implemented everywhere, and the Poland is not only one example, because I hope that through this panel, our clients from this part of the world will so interested in Polish smart startups and IT companies.
Thank you. Okay, so to conclude, as we started from digital economy and we gave examples of leading technologies, I would still add one more that is gaining, as trust is so important, is of course cyber resilience. And this will be absolutely probably #1 in the near future in terms of importance while building any ecosystem based on trust. But if we were to summarize what this digital economy really means to us in one word, I'll start to make it easier for you. It's absolutely collaboration in building new ecosystems, in creating the new value. Of course, cooperation, collaboration in a trusted environment. So this probably is most important for me. Francesco, what would you name?
Yeah, time is short, so I'll give you a very important hint from my side. If I can summarize in one word, the future of digital economy is the creation of common data spaces. Let me just explain what that means. It's not data lakes, it's not data exchange. Data space is a completely new paradigm. In other words, instead of a black box industry where the large producer sell the end product, hiding or not considering the rest of the value chain, the future is that we need to create common data spaces where all the participants and the actors in a product, in a value chain, in a supply chain, exchange data for the common good. This is the revolution that is starting now. It's never happened before. And Poland will play a key role because, like I said before, Poland has been one piece of the jigsaw, but now no single piece of the jigsaw is irrelevant. In order to keep control of the supply chain, we need to play all together. And the only way to play together in the new model of industry is sharing the data in the same common space. Secure, safe, trusted, but exchange data in a common data space. You can imagine healthcare, pandemic, transportation, smart cities, for example. Everybody knows that not many knows that smart cities software runs almost 80% of the smart city software do not run on cloud platforms because of the scare of sharing data with non-sovereign platforms. But again, we have the solution. Alexandra, I liked what she said. We are moving from the technology to what can we do with technology, which is a good move. The key move is the creation of common data space. We cannot grow our children closed in the garage of the core. They will never learn. As well, we cannot grow our artificial intelligence engines without federated learning, without learning from the data from others. So far, we've been hiding data because we were scared. Now it's time to share and exchange data in safe environment because this is the only way to build new products and new economy future.
Thank you, Francesco. So maybe not one word, but 1 minute. Ola.
Well, maybe I'll tag along and I'll say participation. I think it's kind of shares certain features with collaboration, like you mentioned it, Eva, and commons in general. But participation means making people active and allowing them to, kind of really emerge as players, as key players, as those who are co-producers of certain technologies. So I think participation is important because that means that, for instance, sectors that were either blind to certain new technologies and opportunities related to them are becoming active players in that field, and they also take part in this next phase of digital transformation. So for me, that's participation.
Thank you. Sebastian?
I think that we got to know the data is important. And we as well understood that if we can create some kind of massive level of competences, we can change wherever we can imagine that. On the other hand, I think we are starting, we are not ending. That it's good to know that probably next level of our development probably will happen in the soon future, and Internet of Everything probably is one of the key important player.
Okay. Boris.
Well, I would probably tackle one last thing, which is the transformation of human role in economy in work, in culture, that will be caused by the growth of autonomous processes and systems around us. But just give you one example. There is a Polish smart robotics company that has been introducing smart robotics into the Faurecia plants. So basically driving people out from the intralogistic processes but giving them new jobs. The funny thing is that while this robotization happened and practically automated 100% of the work at the factory, the Faurecia, due to growing efficiency of their processes, has created 1,000 new jobs. So, I mean, this is a different economy. This is a different thinking, which we need to grasp to actually understand where is the value added provided by us humans in economic processes, in culture, in our social relationships, and how we can use insights and autonomous services provided by technology to actually improve our lives.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your participation. I really enjoyed the conversation. And I would like to invite everyone who is listening to us for next two panels that we will make a much bigger dive into the workforce, how this changes the work market, what Poland, again, has to offer in this domain. And I think this is our key differentiator. So stay with us, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Francesco.